In February 1848, Marx and Friedrich Engels published the Communist Manifesto, calling on workers to unite against capitalism. Just weeks later, revolutions erupted across Europe. To many observers, these uprisings appeared to confirm Marx's belief that growing class tensions were driving history toward revolutionary change. Although the revolutions of 1848 did not bring about the communist transformation Marx envisioned, their timing seemed remarkable. Occurring just weeks after the publication of the Communist Manifesto, the uprisings appeared to many supporters to confirm Marx's analysis of growing social tensions. As a result, his reputation grew, and many viewed his theory as a powerful explanation of historical change. For Marx and his followers, the revolutions of 1848 seemed to confirm that societies were unstable, class tensions were intensifying, and revolutionary conflict was a driving force of history. To many believers, these events made Marx appear less like a political philosopher and more like someone who had accurately predicted the direction of historical change. Marx became one of the most influential thinkers of the modern era, not simply because he criticized capitalism, but because he offered a powerful explanation of how society worked and where history was headed. His ideas resonated with millions of people living through the social and economic upheavals of the Industrial Revolution for three reasons. First, Marx claimed that his theories were scientific rather than utopian. He argued that by studying economics, class relations, and history, he had discovered the laws governing social change. In his view, communism was not merely a moral ideal, but the inevitable outcome of historical forces already at work. Second, Marx's message resonated with millions of workers facing the hardships of industrial capitalism. As laborers endured long hours, low wages, and poor living conditions, Marx offered a hopeful vision. Capitalism would eventually give way to a society that served workers' interests. By arguing that history was on their side, he gave many workers a sense of purpose and hope for the future. Finally, Marx challenged many of society's most respected institutions. He argued that governments, churches, schools, and cultural traditions often reflected the interests of the ruling class and helped preserve existing power structures. This idea was both radical and influential because it encouraged people to question institutions and beliefs they had long accepted. Despite its enormous influence, Marxism's weaknesses became more apparent over time. Although Marx believed he had discovered the scientific laws of history, many of his key predictions failed to unfold as he expected. One major weakness of Marx's theory was his assumption that workers would develop a shared class identity that outweighed all other loyalties. He believed workers everywhere would unite against capitalism, but many remained more strongly attached to their nation, religion, or local community. Marx underestimated the enduring power of nationalism and religious belief, both of which often united people across class lines. A second weakness of Marx's theory was his belief that worker-capitalist conflict could be resolved only through revolution. He argued that the two classes had fundamentally opposed interests, making compromise impossible. Yet many industrial societies achieved significant improvements through reform. Workers gained higher wages, better working conditions, union rights, and social welfare protections through democratic processes, leading many to support reforming capitalism rather than overthrowing it. Marx also misjudged how ownership would evolve. He viewed society as sharply divided between capitalists who owned productive property and workers who owned only their labor. Over time, however, pension funds, retirement accounts, and stock ownership gave millions of workers a stake in the capitalist economy, blurring the line between worker and capitalist that Marx saw as fundamental. As a result, capitalism proved far more adaptable than Marx had anticipated. Rather than collapsing, it responded to social pressures through reforms, regulation, and economic growth. In many countries, workers gained higher living standards and new protections, leading many to see capitalism as a source of opportunity as well as inequality. Many historians argue that Marx correctly identified problems such as inequality and concentrated economic power, but underestimated capitalism's ability to adapt. Although key predictions, including a worldwide proletarian revolution and the collapse of capitalism, did not occur, his ideas continue to shape debates about economics, social justice, and political power, making him one of the most influential and controversial thinkers in modern history. Karl Marx's influence on the modern world is difficult to overstate. Few thinkers have shaped political, economic, and intellectual history as profoundly. Although many of his predictions proved inaccurate, his ideas transformed how people understood society, power, wealth, and inequality. Marx's writings inspired some of the most influential political movements of the 19th and 20th centuries. His ideas shaped revolutions in countries such as Russia, China, Cuba, and Vietnam, while also influencing socialist parties and labor unions around the world. For millions of workers, Marxism provided a powerful framework for understanding inequality and pursuing social change. Even where communist revolutions never occurred, Marx's influence remained strong. Labor movements won reforms such as workplace safety laws, shorter working hours, minimum wages, and social welfare programs. While rejecting revolution, many social democratic parties adopted parts of Marx's critique of inequality and concentrated economic power. As a result, even societies that opposed Marxism often addressed concerns that Marx helped bring to public attention. Thus, Marx's influence extends far beyond the countries that adopted communism. His ideas about class conflict, economic inequality, and concentrated wealth continue to shape debates among historians, economists, political scientists, and social critics. Discussions of poverty, labor rights, corporate power, and social justice still grapple with questions Marx raised nearly 2 centuries ago. Whether viewed as a visionary who exposed the flaws of modern society or a thinker whose predictions largely failed, Marx's influence is undeniable. His ideas shaped many of the revolutions, reforms, political movements, and debates of the 19th and 20th centuries. To understand modern history, one must understand Karl Marx, a thinker whose ideas changed the world, even where they were ultimately rejected.